video 4. In video 4, we're going to be talking about the project that we want you to do. And right now you're probably freaking out. You're probably saying, I'm never going to figure this out, but you will. It'll be pretty simple actually. So what we're going to do is produce a sound wave. One of the projects you can do is a musical instrument. There's 3 basic types of music instruments that are out there, and I don't care if you're using a drum or a guitar or a flute or a trombone. They work on 3 basic principles. Number 1 is they're either a stringed instrument, which is like this thing right here, or they're an open tube instrument, like a flute, or they're a closed instrument, or a closed tube, like a glass that you tap on, would be a closed tube. Now, what sound is an air pressure wave. So when I do this, a wave vibration of air comes off this string, hits your ear, and makes music. Okay, now when I turn this thing on, and I'm going to do that again, it's really just going back and forth, and there's not really a wave here. That's because the wave has to be in simple harmonic motion. In other words, it has to make that pattern of a standing wave in order to produce noise in your ear. Now, right now, you hear noise. That's all that is. But when I do this just right, I create a standing wave, and when it's beautiful, when it's like you can see it, that's what your eardrum's doing, and that makes a pleasant sound. If it's slightly out of whack, it doesn't sound tuned, is what we call that in music. Okay, so notice that in this wave, hopefully you can see it, comes from here, goes up, and comes down. So this is half a wavelength. Strings make the length of the string. Think about a guitar. You've got it here and down there, and you pluck it, has a half a wavelength. In order to get more wavelengths than this particular one, I have to vibrate it twice as fast as I just was, and you get a full wave, which is called the second harmonic. So in this particular string, it produces music, not very pleasant music, but that's because of everything else that's happening here. This would be a second harmonic. So let's pretend you were playing the guitar and you went down on your fret and you pushed right here. You would create a full wavelength, and you'd get to the second harmonic. If you tripled that so that you have the 3 waves, you would be pressing down here, and this wave would be half a wavelength, and if you pressed hard enough, the rest of the thing would just be dead. And this would be the third harmonic. So the shorter the string, higher the note. Now, this does depend on the density of the string, how massive it is. It also depends on how tight it is. Now, you know, if you play the guitar or the piano or a stringed instrument, you can tighten the string and raise the octave. So a minute ago, this thing was at 14, right? If I take this thing and stretch it out so that it's got more tension, I just changed where that thing will be at the fundamental frequency. So I'm gonna there it is right there, and this frequency is almost 20. It's 19. So by tensioning the string, I just made the frequency go up. Frequency in your ear is how high the note is. Now, I'm going to turn this thing off so I can show you these tubes. An open tube produces 2 openings. Now, remember that air is a pressure wave. So if I blow into this tube and create a high pressure in here, the center is where the pressure is going to be the greatest. And out here are going to be what we call antinodes. So this is the node, like where the string was together or at the beginnings of the strings. So there's one node and 2 antinodes. If you drew this out and continued on, this would be half a wavelength. So the length equals a half a wavelength. If you do a closed tube instrument, you're only going to get a quarter of a wavelength. And so the closed tube is going to give you the same length of closed tube as open, is going to change your frequency by 2. It's going to go from a half a wavelength to a quarter of a wavelength. So this is going to be a lower note than that, given the instruments being the same. So when you're playing a musical instrument, that's what you're going to do. So one of your projects is a musical instrument.